What's up everybody, welcome back to our laboratory. Safety is number one priority. CLIL stands for Content Language Integrated Learning. It is a dual-focused learning approach that makes use of a language immersion to enhance skill in a certain school subject and that at the same time mastery of another language. Basically, working in English makes your English more fluent and at the same time makes you more concentrated. Samuel Finocchio, Gianluca Gianzante, Stefano Bavota, Giovanni Bernabei and I, Daniele Cannelonga, realized this project in the last 2 weeks.
The other side of the project was made usually the components of the starter kit of the Arduino, and this is an Arduino board with a DF robot Ethernet shield on it, and on the breadboard you can see an analog temperature sensor. It is connected to the Arduino through this port, and it measures the temperature values every time and sends it to the web server by the internet.
The USB port is connected to the computer, and this is used both to power the Arduino and to upload the software. This right here is an LCD display. It was used in the early stage of the project to test the temperature sensor.
The measurements can be accessed through the iGenuino website on the monitoring page, which displays the temperature value in real time. Measurements are also stored for 6 months, so you can look up charts on the dedicated page. This website was developed following Google's design guidelines, also known as material design. It's a visual language that is clean, intuitive and provides the user with more feedback. Material design is also responsive, so it adapts flawlessly to different screens and resolutions. This was done thanks to the materialized CSS and the grid system working together with the viewport adapter and the media queries. Everything was generated by the AngularJS framework. Now, if you want to be notified when the temperature raises over a certain limit, you can do so by enabling email notifications, and the temperature threshold can be customized in the settings. You can also scan the QR code on the homepage to download the dedicated Android app that uses Android WebView.
As you know, our Arduino data acquisition system does read a data every second. Of course, we cannot load a page every second. Refreshing the page will be very heavy in terms of internet consumption. That's why we are using an asynchronous web server using a JavaScript front-end that reads data on a CRUD server. This CRUD server stands for Create, Read, Update and Delete. The CRUD server is called by the JavaScript front-end. We'll be comparing the CRUD server to a restaurant. We'll be first showing you a classical restaurant, which most of maybe others have coded using a standard PHP, HTML and CSS environment without our JavaScript asynchronous front-end. Then we'll be showing you a restaurant that works as an asynchronous front-end. Let's say we'll be using a JavaScript front-end as we did. As you can see, the waiter took the order. He went to the chef and now he's currently waiting for the chef to completely cook the egg. this case we are talking about an asynchronous server, in which the waiter takes the order, reaches the chef and says to the chef that he has to cook the egg, while the chef is cooking the egg, which of course takes time, because it's not a fast deal to cook an egg. He comes back to the next client, he takes the order of the second client and gets back to the chef and makes the chef cook another egg together with the first egg. The chef of course can cook even more than 5 or 6 eggs because he has the power to do so. The same way as the server has the potential ability to serve more clients together.
Let's now jump into the code showcase, starting by the tree of our application, having the views, which are the HTML file displayed to the user, the JavaScript, which is the functionality of the front end deployed to the user, and the backend, which connects the application to the database. Here we started by seeing the index.html file, in which we insert our dependencies to let our application work. Then we have the controller selection for the main controller, which connects our application to the application.js file, and the data ngview, in which we will load all these views file in HTML, depending about the content of this file, which is depending on the routing configuration set up on the application.js file. Here we have the footer, which just shows the authors of the application. Let's jump into the application.js and see what was I talking about. This is the routing. The routing provides the views to the user without reloading the page, so it just loads this content into the index.html file. Here we have the event-driven routing provider, which when we load login.html using /login logout into the URL, this view will be loaded and this controller will be used. Same thing works for every other navigating routing configuration. There we go to the controllers. The main controller defines the navigator, which changes whether the user is logged or not. Then we have the login function, which asks the database the data, so whether the user exists or not, it will be prompted with the application in administrator or guest mode. In the monitoring controller, we have the connection to the database, and we read the last data inserted and will be displayed to the user using the monitoring.html view. There we have the settings controller, in which we can modify and set up the email threshold of humidity and the temperature. Here we have the charts controller, which will be describing how our chart should be shown. Then we jump to the backend. The backend has a connection part, of course, to the database, in which we configure our database connection, so localhost, because the database stands on the same server of the website. Then we have username, password, etc. The connection uses the standard MySQLi connection. A request is handled by the request file, which has a bunch of methods doing different stuff that will be called whether the user asks for stuff into the application.js file. The user file handles the user login and the user information. CRUD parser just listens for the request from the user to the server and passes to the other backend files. User handler just handles the login, calling the user.php file. This particular file allows us to call everything in the website without worrying about security problems.
In a certain.
Non so perché
in a certain. Allora, immagina se
Certain.
tipo sort.
Ok. In a certain.
Scusate.
Certain, scusa.
Certain, è giusto, certain. Non lo so.
Qui ci sta. Si fa il braccio. Porca puttana. Ma la ripresa da vero youtuber come fa? Ma che cazzo di... Allora, in the early stage of the
Ok.
Oh mio Dio, che puttanata.
Cosa?
Si vede.
Cosa hai fatto? Cosa hai fatto?
Oh mio Dio.
Cosa?
Chuck, azione.
Che cosa è successo?
Si vedeva questo qua.
No! Dai.
Oh mio Dio, lo elimino?